Good evening, everybody, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of Foam Board right here at WQEL, WBCO, and Crawford County Now headquarters in beautiful Bucyrus, Ohio. I am Brian Skronsky. I am your host, but I am far from the only media member here. Matter of fact, the house is packed from top to bottom. Upstairs on the radio portion right now with Davey Jones, who is in his 50th year of Foam Board, are all of the play-by-play guys. And down here, I've got the local sports reporters, some of the very best in the business. You're going to hear from each and every one of them here tonight. But in the hot seat first, the one, the only Mr. Dan Messerschmidt from Crawford County Now. Dan, high school football starts tomorrow, man. For you, as a reporter, getting ready this time of year, just seems like the air is a little bit different and the countdown's on. So for you, my friend, just what is that sensation when the season's about to kick off?
First thought in my mind is, where did my summer go?
It's all behind us.
It's all behind us now, and we're into the fall. So it's always a special time. You know, I can go back to, you know, when my dad took me to my first football game down on Lane Street Field, the old Bucyrus football field, and it's just really special. The lights are on, the kids are ready to go, and it's a lot of excitement in the air.
Well, since we're here in Bucyrus and it's your specialty, this area, let's start with the Redmen and expectations for this team coming into a brand new year. Have not had success in a very, very long time since joining the N10. They are right near the bottom of the standings. What is your feeling from seeing them so far this summer, and what we should expect from them in 2025?
Their numbers are up, not dramatically, but I think they had 23 kids with one senior last year. They're up to 29 this year, and they've got 5 seniors. So they're taking steps. I think things are going to be improved. They're not at all ready to contend for NOL titles or N10 titles. NOL titles either, for that matter, but they're not at the Crawford, Cary, Mohawk level at this point. But I think wins are going to be a very good possibility this year. How many? I don't want to put a lot of pressure on them, but I would think they could win multiple games this year, which would be a step forward from 2-0 and 10 teams for the last 2 years.
The good news for them, I'm looking at their schedule right now, on the road at North Baltimore, then 4 consecutive home games. So you get some of that home cooking, and that's a chance to try to build some momentum. Triad, Cardington, Lincoln, Buckeye Central, Mohawk in order. You mentioned that you could see some wins on the calendar for them. Is your anticipation that it'll probably come in that little bundle of games?
Yes, the schedule's going to get harder, obviously, for them as the season goes on. Not just, as you say, 4 home games right away, basically right out, almost out of the box after North Baltimore, but they're also going to be facing the cream of the crop basically in those last games. Probably the most competitive game for them, ironically, in that later group is Winford. I think they think that they can compete with Winford this year. I don't know that you could ever get John Butchko to say, yeah, this is the year we're going to break the streak, but I think they're really optimistic that they can play with Winford. Downside is it's at Winford.
Let's talk a little bit more about the Royals coming off a 3-7 season. It was a team that, when the Northern 10 started, they were winning all the championships. Coach of the Year plaques galore. All of a sudden, the last few years, it's not quite the same Royals. I'm told their numbers are way down from what they used to be when Gabe Helvert and certainly Mr. Moyer were there running the program. In your opinion, where is that program right now, and have expectations changed from maybe 5 seasons ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the fans' expectations are still very high, obviously, because they were so good for so long. Realistically, the 3-7 hit you in the face, and the 27 kids in uniform this year are going to be another, obviously, hurdle for them. Now, how many of those incoming freshmen, for instance, are going to be pretty good athletes? Hard to say. They're freshmen. They're going to have a couple of really good returning players in Braden Campbell, the quarterback, and Bryce Locker is going to be probably their primary running back this year. So, skill position-wise, they've got some players, but can they put 11 guys out on the field like they used to do? Time will tell.
And then sandwiched right in between them in the Northern 10 standings in 2024 was Buckeye Central. A couple of wins for them. Obviously, opening night and a really dramatic loss for them against Crestline, ending their streak. Coming into this season, the Bucks, what's your feeling about where that team is? Do they take a step up? Are they going to be near the bottom of the league perhaps again?
Again, you're battling that top tier of the N10, and it's just so difficult for the teams, for the Bucyrus, Buckeye Central, to motivate their way up the ladder because they're just facing tough teams almost every week of the schedule. Now, on the plus side for Buckeye, Jack Phillips, the quarterback, is returning, and his brother, he's got a twin brother that's, I believe, a receiver, if I'm not mistaken. So they're two really pretty good athletes. They've got a couple of bigger kids on the offensive line, which can help also. But again, I think depth is going to be a real issue for them, just like it is for, Bucyrus, Winford. It's tough to fight that battle.
Roster-wise, Winford, Buckeye Central, Bucyrus, it just seems like they don't quite have the numbers of the rest of the Northern 10. How much of an impact do you feel like that has from top to bottom? It seems like it's been kind of a top-heavy league over the last several seasons with Colonel Crawford and Mohawk getting the championship last year, and then Kerry was running the show there for a while. The teams down at the bottom, do they just need to get more kids out for football?
That certainly helps, because low numbers don't just hurt you in the current season. Yeah, you don't have a lot of depth, but also, do you even have a JV team? Or are you having to play a bunch of varsity players down just to have a JV team, and you're playing them in a lot of quarters? So, and you get your kids beat up. It's a long-term problem. You need to get those kids some quality JV time so they're ready to play varsity football for the next year and the year after that. When you have low numbers, you're throwing freshmen into the fray. Bucyrus's quarterback is going to be a freshman this year, so it's one of those. And if you don't get the numbers up, it just repeats itself each year.
We saw that with Crestline for a long time. They're going to have a JV team this year, I'm told, for the first time in probably more than a decade, Zach? It's been a while.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Hastings Robinette seems to be the dude for that job. They make the playoffs last year. They come out of the gates. They get a couple of wins. How much momentum do you feel like that school has where it looks like, dude, there's like 80% of the boys at the school are out for football here in 25?
Yeah. And Crestline, amazingly, historically, that was the case. Back when John DePietro and, some of those coaches had, really good teams, they had a very, very high percentage of the kids, of the boys in the school playing football. If they're back to that and they can develop some athletes out of that group, with the league that they play in, I don't see why they could not, have a winning season.
So playoffs again, prediction for the Bulldogs?
I don't know all the teams that they're playing. Their non-league schedule. I don't know anything about Fairport, Harbor, Harding, and some of these teams. But those seem to be, at least as the words roll off your tongue, winnable games. If they can win 5 games again, I don't see why they can't be in the playoffs.
All right, let's touch on a team that's probably the favorite to win the Northern 10 this year in Colonel Crawford. Jake Bruner, he's been there for a few years now. Seems like he's got the ship rowing in the right direction. Big game tomorrow night that you can watch live and free right here on the OH Report. You can also listen to the game, WBCO, tomorrow as well. What are you feeling about the Eagles this season? It seems to me as though they are the team head and shoulders that everyone's expecting to win the Northern 10. Do you get that sensation?
Absolutely. They have Jake has 64 kids out, and he has a history of that. When he coached at Bucyrus, he was getting 60 and 70 kids out at Bucyrus. So he historically knows how to get kids out for the football team and gets them to stay and gets them in the weight room. He has them prepared. And in this league, if you got some numbers, Kerry's have proven that year in and year out, you're gonna compete in this league every year.
Tomorrow night, again, you can watch them play Fairborn right here on the OH Report and then listen on BCO. The winner of that game, that's a big one. Obviously, Dave Carroll, a lot of our Clear Fork fans out there, he's down there. Great season for them a season ago. So looking forward to see how that shakes out, Dan. I'll give you the final word here just on Crawford County football and your outlook. And maybe what you're looking forward to most in terms of an athlete matchup. Where do we go?
Yeah, I think from a Bucyrus standpoint, Damaris Munn-Page rushed for a lot of yards last year on an 0-10 team. I think with a little bit more help this year, and he's another year older, bigger, stronger, I think you're going to see a lot out of him. He's going to be pretty much a load for almost any team that they play. Now, the question will be, obviously, can other people chip in to see if Bucyrus can win? I think at Winford, you're going to get all 10 games out of Braden Campbell, should he stay healthy. And that's going to help him at the quarterback position. They sort of suffer after he played his first 5 games and had to sit the second half of the season. That sort of hurt them in the second half. So with Braden back, Bryce Locker, those two, I think, are going to be names that are going to be talked about every week. And then I already mentioned Jack Phillips up at Buckeye Central. So I think you're going to see some good athletes. Whether it translates into a lot of wins with those 3 teams, it's hard to say.
All right, well, if you're a fan of Crawford County football, Dan certainly is the guy to follow along on Crawford County Now all season long. Thank you so much for the time, sir.
No problem.
All right, we're going to bring in another sports beat reporter now from the Marion Star, a multi-time Writer of the Year award winner, Mr. Rob McCurdy, jumping into the hot seat now. Rob, thanks for coming over, man.
Wonderful introduction.
Well,
14 time.
Ooh.
14 time. 8 in a row, AC.
Stop it, baby. Where do you find the room on your mantle at this point?
There's a lot of room in the basement.
Is that where they go?
That's where they go.
Give me a couple. We'll put them on display at OH Report for you.
Yeah, one of these days I'll have a yard sale. You can.
I wonder what the value is. Let me know. Put it on eBay. I'm just
probably 50 cents, maybe $1.
That's decent currency.
But yeah.
I mean, you didn't pay for them yourself. All right. Obviously, you're the voice of Marion County sports. So we really appreciate all the perspective that you've had. I'm going to give you just kind of a big blanket statement here to start things off with, and just getting out to scrimmages, talking to some coaches. If you can just gauge the excitement level for all the teams, where we at countywide?
Every year it's exciting. I mean, every year is a new year, and you got new faces and new kids, and you got kids who were kids and now they're seniors, and that's a big deal for them. So every year's special, and this year will be no different. I mean, the difference this year is that I had no idea what to expect out of it. I covered 10 schools, and I couldn't tell you how this is going to shake out with all 10 of them. I mean, usually you come into a season, there's schools that have lost a bunch of guys, so you know they're going to take steps back, or there's schools that have a bunch of dudes back, like Northmore last year. I mean, I knew they were going to be a great team. I didn't foresee them going to the state Final Four and doing the things that they did, but I knew they were going to have an outstanding season, be one of the best teams in Central Ohio. But this year I don't have that. I mean, they're all blank slates this year, and so it'll be interesting to see each chapter each week how it gets written.
Quick thoughts on the Golden Knights. Scott Armrose, he's done a great job there, but, I mean, they started pretty much all seniors. What's he bring back?
They were very senior-laden last year. They have Carson Campbell, Garrett Deach will be their running backs, and Deach will fill that Cohen Becker kind of hybrid role, and they're having two quarterbacks are on the list. That he hadn't made a decision last time I talked to him. So we'll see about that. But both of them are going to be kind of running style too. So the AJ Bauer, who was a state player of the year in Division VI as a quarterback, threw for over 3,000 yards. They're going to go about their business a little bit different this year. Also lost 4 of their 5 starting linemen. So it's going to be a different team this year at Northmore. That said, they're backfilling with some guys who waited their turn, and and I think they're going to take advantage of their turn this year, and I don't suspect there'll be a huge drop off from last year to this year, but to expect these guys to do what they did last year, go undefeated, and win the league title in a tough league last year,
yes,
and make the run that they did, that's once in a lifetime stuff, and they got to enjoy that last year.
I think they're a bit of a mystery to a lot of people looking at the media vote. A lot of folks think they're going to finish second in the KMAC. I don't think quite.
I thought
they're
that
in the
was
top
a little
4 or 5.
I had them third or fourth. I had them fourth behind, I think, Danville, Centerburg. Northmore will be in there. Mount Gilead. I'm big on Mount Gilead this year. I think they're ready to take a step up. They got a third-year quarterback. They got a nice running back in Carson Barnum. They've got some huge dudes on the line, and they're athletic and they're strong and they're multi-sport kids. So they know how to use their arms and their feet and footwork and things like that. So and their defense last year was outstanding. I mean, the fact that they only won 3 games and 3 other games were 1 or 2 score games, and they only gave up like 20 or fewer points. 8 times teams could only score, couldn't break 20 on them. So I mean, they were, for a team that was sub 500, to do what they did defensively was really spectacular, and they're going to be better this year on that side of the ball. So if they can ride that defense and get any kind of punch out of their offense, I think they can be in the mix.
Let's turn the page, talk about the MOAC, and let's start with Harding, kind of the flagship school over there in Marion County, and I would argue a really disappointing 2024 on the football field.
Absolutely.
Talking to Coach Williamson before the season, he was like, I got guys everywhere if we can just get them engaged, and they never took off.
They never got engaged. It was really frustrating, and I was frustrated for him. It was frustrating for everybody. It was frustrating for the kids. I mean, for whatever reason, it just never clicked last year. Well, it's going to click this year. I just have full faith and confidence, and C.J. Wessler's taken over. Not only is he a former player at Harding, he was a former offensive coordinator at Harding for years. He left to go try his hand at college ball, comes back, gets a couple years of head coaching experience at Pleasant, did a nice job there. He's ready. I mean, he's ready to, and the staff he has put together is. It's like I'm not a Marvel guy, but what's the Avengers? Yeah, they're in fact they joked about it, like, we're getting the Avengers together here, and they've got some coaches on that staff, and I think it's what these kids need. I mean, they need a little kick in the butt, and they got some dudes. I mean, they really do, especially on the defensive side of the ball. The Keller boys are back. J.J. Starks, a big time. Defensive end, Colton Sibrel is back. Their secondary is largely back. Tremel Thompson-Reese is back from an injury from a year ago, and he had like 4 interceptions as a sophomore, so he's back as a senior, and we'll see what he can do. So they've got some guys on defense. It's just a matter of them finding any kind of punch on offense, and their offense was just kind of wayward last year.
So Harding seems like they're on the way up. You mentioned they plucked Pleasant's coach. They bring him over onto the other side of town. And then the Spartans, they go outside of the state of Ohio to get a new coaching staff.
Yes. Russell Norton, I haven't had a chance to get to know Russell yet. I'm looking forward to that. But oddly, his staff is the staff that they've had here. They've kind of kept some continuity. Most of their staff from the last few years is still there. So they know the kids. The kids know what the expectations are and things like that. As far as how they're going to go about their business, I think it's going to be very similar to what they've been doing out there. The problem is they lost like 20 seniors last year. They had just a massive senior class, and they were guys who contributed a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how they backfill with who's coming back and some new kids coming up. But they have a couple big-time players. Brendan Ringer, I think he's going to be our best defensive player in the area. He had over 140 tackles last year, kind of playing a linebacker hybrid defensive end. So that's a lot of tackles for a guy that's playing on that kind of system. But I think he's going to get more opportunities to do some things. And they've got some guys who are just been waiting for their name to get called, and this is their year to do it.
Out of the Marion County schools, River Valley finished the best in the MOAC last year. Still a game below 500, losing their playoff opener, and no more Chase Ebert, who that's been the dude there for a while.
He's been there. Before him it was Caden Shadone, and then Chase kind of took it to an even different level. And I mean, he was there everything. I mean, he ran the ball, he threw the ball, and he produced 98% of their offense or something crazy like that. They had literally no running game other than him. They had great wideouts, but he's gone. Some of the wideouts are gone. We'll find out. I mean, Carson Smith is a golfer, a great basketball player. As a senior, he's trying his hand at quarterback. Now they have some other guys who are trying their hand at quarterback too. We'll see this week tomorrow who won the quarterback derby. But the good thing that River Valley has going for them is two things really. They have a great offensive line. I mean, senior laden, multi-time starters. One kid's a 4-year starter, 2 or 3 year starters. So they've got some, and they're big. So hopefully that new quarterback will have some time to find some weapons, because they do have some nice receivers to go to too.
So if you had to make not necessarily a bold prediction, but if you just had to prognosticate out of those 3 teams, who finishes the highest in the Mohawk this year?
Well, I just did yesterday unveiling my power rankings for the 10 schools, and oddly enough, I settled at Marion Harding as number 1. Which
wow!
Last year they would have been probably 8th, maybe 9th. So we'll see. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think Harding is right now on paper the best team I got right now.
All right. You heard it right here, guys. Marion Harding jumping from last, maybe up to the top of the MOAC, baby.
Basement to the penthouse.
Love it. All right, Rob McCurdy, thank you for the time, man. Thanks for coming
Appreciate
in.
it.
We'll continue our media carousel now with Mr. Anthony Conchel. If you want to jump on into the hot seat. Anthony covers Crawford County, and then
let's just be real honest.
So that sounds like Wyandotte and Seneca County at times.
No, it's some of the outlying schools. Yes, Mohawk, Seneca East are 2 of them. Covered a lot of Northmore last year with Zach because of what a great season they had in there. We kind of call them fringe schools, but with radio and with what you guys do, there's no real fringe anymore. I mean, we kind of cover whoever we think really needs to be covered. But yeah, did a lot of Mohawk last year. We can start there. They lost a lot of kids in all sports. I think they had seniors on football, basketball, baseball, and they went deep in, I think, all those sports. Football, since we're on that, their quarterback was Ben Bogner. He'd been at least a 3-year starter. They lost him. One of the Bish boys, I always get these confused. One's Caden, one's Caleb. One's gone, one's back. I have to look at their roster before I cover a game. But they lost a lot of weapons. But again, they have good numbers for a small school. And that's one of those schools, kind of like Northmore. They're small, kind of a D6, D7. But they get kids coming out for football. And they've had some really good success there. Not just recently, but I think, Dan, even back years ago. Mohawk was always a force to be reckoned with. So, and now I got to pat myself on the back real quick. Last year we were asked to make a bold prediction, and I predicted that somebody other than Crawford or Carey would win the N10, and it, of course, was Mohawk. So, by 1 game, and I think the other 3 had 2 losses, and Mohawk had the 1. But I just, I've seen a lot of Mohawk, and I knew they were really primed for last year. That said, I think they're, maybe taking, I don't want to say a step back, but Coach Daniel will have a tough time winning that league this year. So,
give me your bold prediction for the N10 then this year. Who do you see winning it?
I mean, I don't want to get Jake Bruner upset with me because he's one of the few coaches I'd actually be afraid of. Barring anything unforeseen, I don't see anybody touching Colonel Crawford. I mean, the number of kids they've got back, I mean, Zach wrote about it the other day. I mean, you've got 2 stud running backs.
Yeah.
And Dean and Connor McMichael. And you've got a bunch of dudes on the line. Payne DeGray, one of the best linemen maybe in the state of Ohio. At least that's what Zach said. So I'm gonna echo what he says. But I mean, their program is just, as Dan said, 60 kids every year, JV program, weight program. I mean, those kids live football, even though a lot of those kids play other sports like Payne, all Ohio basketball, or at least all conference and everything. But football is big out there in North Robinson. So I don't see anybody beating them. Now, somebody could sneak up. I also, do some Seneca East games. They've got Nicholas Parks, their quarterback, coming back. Good athlete. I think he's at least a 3, if not a 4-year starter. They'll be good. and I think Upper will be maybe in that mix. But I just see Crawford head and shoulders above everybody else.
So Seneca East, Mohawk, replacing a lot of dudes. However, the Tigers get their quarterback returning this season for a senior year.
They've got a few weapons, Brian, that I think can keep them competitive. And they're just one of those teams that, I don't know, I just kind of scrappy is maybe not the right word, but they always, they always fight and stay in a game. You don't see them get blown out too often, even when they're undermanned. They've got a lot of pride up there in Attica. So, yeah, I mean, those teams could be in that top half of the league if I had to go that far.
You just hit on Upper Sandusky. They've been floating like right in the middle of the N10 the last several seasons. I think there's been probably a couple campaigns where we thought they might threaten for a conference championship, and it hasn't happened yet.
They're always kind of a wild, and I don't see them a lot, but they're kind of a wild card to me.
Sure.
When you think they're going to be really good, and then they drop off, and other times they might sneak up and surprise you. But they're another team that you can never count them out. And they usually have really good numbers, too. One of the bigger schools, I think, is it the biggest school in the M10? So, they should, just like Harding, those bigger schools should have numbers every year, even though sometimes they don't. On paper, they should be competitive every year. We'll see.
The lone Crawford County team in the MOAC, the Galleon Tigers. This team, I'm told, competed very well last week against Lexington in their scrimmage, and they seem to have some dogs up front. A lot of skill guys are back for another season. Do you have kind of a pulse on what we should expect from Matt Dick's Tigers this year?
Yeah, they were another team that the last couple of years, you never knew which team you were going to get. I think it was Aiden Schmidt took over at quarterback about midway through the season, kind of changed their look, and I think they're going to build around him a little bit. They've got athletes. Jacob Chambers, I mean, you could argue he's one of the better athletes in the area, in the county for sure. I can see them putting some points on the board, and I think they've got a lot of kids back. The Coolman kid, there's two Hay brothers, I believe. So they've got some guys back who played a lot last year. I could see them, if not winning the MOAC, certainly maybe moving up into that Shelby, Ontario echelon a little bit.
I think that's kind of the conversation. Most around our area feel like Shelby is going to be like Colonel Crawford in the N10, probably the best team. I could maybe see them going 10-0, running the table, but Galleon could be that second team in the league this year.
I would not be surprised to see Galleon in the mix from what we saw glimpses of it last year. And if Schmidt's the quarterback and he's healthy and the other pieces are, in place, they could have a really good year.
So Dan stole most of the shine for Crawford County so far.
That's
We've hit
okay.
on pretty much all the
my
other
boss,
teams.
so he can do what he wants.
Just give me who interests you in Crawford County this year? Who are some teams that you want to go see how they're going to compete?
Honestly, a team that interests me, and I covered them a few times last year, was Bucyrus. Because of what Dan talked about, but also, Dan, if I'm not mistaken, several of those linemen that are juniors have been starting since they were freshmen. Some of those kids have got beaten up an awful lot. It's time in their minds, I would think, to start dishing out a little pain for all the punishment they've taken. And as Dan said, they actually have, 4 or 5 seniors. And I think this could be the year that they maybe surprise a couple people, not just, I'll say this because Dan don't want to upset Butchko, but I'm not as afraid of Butchko as I would be of Jake. But I think but again, to give John Butchko credit, he's stuck with those kids and he's tried to build that program with the weight program and the numbers. I do think that the skill kids that he has, combined with the linemen growing up a little bit, I think they could win a league game or two. I mean, yeah, that's going out on a limb, but I went out on one last year and look what happened to Mohawk. So maybe I give him a little love. Winford always amazes me because I never know, like Dan touched on, the tradition, but the numbers aren't there. They have some kids to build around, but do they have enough? So both of those teams really intrigue me a lot. And also Crestline, just because of the storybook season they had last year with the new coach, and they're playing Saturday games, and they're traveling, and they're doing all this crazy stuff, and they end up in the playoffs. So if they can build on that, maybe they can get back to the Crestline, heritage that they had for how many years under DePietro, and even recently where they've been competitive. So yeah, those teams that are kind of in the lower end of things, I think they've got a lot to prove because we're expecting Crawford. We and even the out-of-county teams like Cary, you're expecting them to win 7 or 8 games. If they don't, it's like, oh my gosh, what happened? But when a team like Bucyrus or Buckeye Crestline starts winning a few games, then suddenly people, oh, what's going on over there? So, yeah, could be interesting. I think, and like Rob said too, I'm just, other than Crawford, I'm not sure what these other teams really have. You know, a lot of them are filling a lot of holes, like we talked about with some of the Mohawks and Seneca East and those teams. But, you know, sometimes those kids just been waiting their turn. They step up and surprise you.
So take Colonel Crawford and Galleon out of the mix. The rest of Crawford County, can you see any team flirting with 500? Crestline, would that be?
Crestline would be fair, but again, to Dan's point, we don't know half these schools they play, will these teams even show up. I mean, it's just hard to say because they play such a, you know, outlier of a schedule. It's hard to say, yeah, they're going to beat this team. Yeah, they can hang with this team. But I would say Crestline could, and I'll go back again to Bucyrus. I think they can surprise some people. If they get a win or two in the preseason, you could be looking at a 3 or 4 win season for them, which for them would be huge coming off the 0-10s.
All right, last thing I'm going to ask you, bold prediction, the Copper Kettle, who gets it this year?
Bucyrus.
Wow. All right. Shots fired, baby, right here, Anthony Conchel. Yeah, I think
Thanks, Brian.
In a 25-year stretch?
I've never been afraid to take the heat.
Never, ever. All right, speaking of heat, here it comes. Lighten up your camera, baby. Don't adjust your screen. Sometimes they say face for radio. We don't have it right here. Mr. Zach Holden. And you're transitioning roles this year.
Yeah.
So you've been the Crawford County guy for, what, 6-7 years? At least?
8 or 9, yeah.
8 or 9, so even more.
Yeah.
And you're going to be now more in Richland County.
Yes.
So getting acclimated to the schools over on our side of things, over in the greater Mansfield area, I think there's a lot of fun storylines
Yes.
right now in Richland County. Give me your top couple. What are you looking forward to most?
I'm looking forward to seeing this Shelby team. I've heard a lot about them. Didn't get to see them at all last year. Obviously saw the game against Ontario. I saw highlights of that. I want to see that Shelby team in action. I want to see this Lexington team. I mean, I know there's a really high expectations there.
Yes.
I want to see if they can piece it together. I think the OCC is going to be pretty fun between them and Ashland. I think that's really what it's going to come down to. And I want to see kind of like what those middle teams, like what is Ontario going to do without Bod Penn? What's Lucas going to look like this year? Kind of like those storylines,
Yes.
I think will be interesting.
Just reflecting back real fast, who do you think you're going to miss most over in Crawford County that you're not going to see them week in, week out, and keep an eye?
So the shift, I'm still going to see some, obviously, like you said, not week in, week out. I'm going to miss seeing Crestline regularly. I think it's nice because they do have Saturday games, so I can pop out to those. But just seeing what they were able to do last year and just talking with Hastings, being around that team a handful last year, like, this is a completely different Crestline team. Like, this is unlike anything I've seen, like, in terms of a culture shift in 1 year. And they've got really high expectations there. I'll go out on a limb and say I think 8 wins is very possible, if not more. Because they've crafted a schedule, like, we don't know a lot about the teams, but they've crafted a schedule that is winnable. And I think that's what they needed. They'll drive 3 hours. They're like Lucas. They'll drive far away if it means they can have a competitive game.
So let's talk about Lucas because they've done that for years. They've played a lot of Division II and Division III. That's kind of been my beat for a while, and I've just been really not shocked, but impressed, I guess, that the Cubs are willing to play anybody, anytime, anywhere, and I'm really glad to see them find the league in the Northern 10 here moving into the future. But new coaching staff, and I think that they didn't exactly come out and play as well as they wanted to or expected to in 2024.
Yeah.
What is your expectations here for the new year in the second season now under Coach Sweat?
I mean, again, they're playing teams that they want to compete with. Hillsdale's, without a doubt, the toughest team on their schedule, and thankfully they can kind of get them out of the way early. But the second half, I mean, they've got a lot of winnable games. They're going out of state, I think, once or twice.
One time, yep.
They end with Crestline. I think that Week 10 game against Crestline will actually be a really fun game. Kind of throwback to the NBC days, too. So.
I was going to say, they used to have that towards the end of the season over at Old Hudson Stadium, which, shout out, I guess they just retired it last week. Really cool venue. But The other storyline that I talked to Coach Aaron Eckert last week and was just like, hey man, like what's kind of your pulse on your team right now? Great up front. He feels like they might be able to even dominate and win some games because of how good and how many veterans they have back. A lot of sophomores pretty much everywhere else. So from what you're seeing and hearing about the Warriors coming off of a team that was the best in program history, most wins, most yards, et cetera, well, what do you think they're feeling like is going to be their 2025 outcome?
I think it's going to be very difficult living life without Bodpen, and it would be that same way. Like it's going to be that way for Shelby next year without Braden.
Oh, yeah.
It's just when you have an athlete like that, I mean, that's a generational talent. Ontario's got a ton of talent, ton of kids, and I think maybe they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder like, yeah, we know Bodpen was everything last year for us, and we appreciate it, but we have a lot more we can still offer. And, I mean, I definitely see this as a team that'll definitely be over 500.
I agree. Yeah, I think they're going to be in the upper echelon of the
I think
MOAC.
they'll be competing with that Galleon and probably Harding for that second place. So,
all right, Clear Fork Colts. Last year, kind of growing pains throughout the course of the season. I think they played 3 different quarterbacks. They finally found their guy. They've got Hoflick back there, and he's going to be a 2-year starter now. They are huge up front. I watched them manhandle Madison a little bit in the trenches this past week. So with them and the skill guys that they have, what are your expectations for Clear Fork as far as wins and losses? Because they haven't been quite getting there so far under Brokaw. Is this the year they take the leap in your estimation?
I think it is, yeah. And I think this is, obviously we talked about it before, like Shelby is the team to beat in the MOAC. But that second place is completely up for grabs. And we're going to see some really good games. Clear Fork Galleon is always a really good game. That could decide second place. Clear Fork, I think, is at Shelby this year. Clear Fork and Ontario will be fun. Like, this might be the year that we see Clear Fork back up there. Obviously, I don't think, knock on wood, as long as they stay healthy, I don't see anybody taking it from Shelby. But second place in the MOAC this year is almost as good as a league title most other years. So,
to expand on Shelby, most people aren't asking me, are they going to win the MOAC? They're just kind of writing them into the championship role, putting it on the trophy. Is this a state Final Four team? That's what I'm being asked roster-wise. And from what I've seen so far during the offseason, you can't get a perfect gauge, but with the number of names that are back on paper and, of course, maybe the most special quarterback in Division IV, I don't think that you could say, I'm not really feeling that. They've kind of got that storyline generating right now.
Yeah, and honestly, Ontario beat them in the postseason last year, but I think that Shelby team might have matched up a little better in the following week. So this very well could have been a state team last year.
Sure.
And you only lose to a generational talent who's now at Ohio State. I don't want to say state or bust, but it kind of seems like one of those seasons.
I think I'm with you, man. So 10-0, I think, is realistic for them during the regular season. If they stay healthy, of course, Braden, he's never missed a game. But if he's able to stay out on the field, maybe a potential Mr. Football candidate again from Richland County, I think.
If he's putting in the numbers he did last year, I don't see why not.
All right, last team that I really want to hit on because a lot of question marks, even though they have 3 big-time athletes, and that's the Lexington Minutemen. So have not performed well during the offseason, according to sources that I've talked to. However, they've got all these mega talents. Quarterbacks going to Michigan State. We all know about Fogel, and he's committed to Georgia, and Seven Allen on the outside. They're just not winning in the trenches right now. Is this a team that can actually compete for the OCC, given they've got the skill guys, but are a work in progress where it matters most in the trenches?
I think we will know by week 4. Once they get through that non-league, and if they can really mesh together and figure out how to fit all of those egos isn't the right word, but like everybody's.
They need to touch the ball, right?
Yes, yeah. Like they need to figure out how to get the ball to their players. And that's what I heard in the Galleon scrimmages. They weren't doing that as much. I don't know if that was just to kind of give other guys a feel for the ball, because it's kind of obvious if you want to give Braden the ball 30 times a game, which maybe you should. But so I don't know. Like I said, we'll see after the first 3 weeks to see how that offense is actually clicking.
That's been my feeling the last couple of years is how is Fogel not getting more targets?
Yeah.
And it's easy for us as media people or anybody watching the game to be like, how is Coach Sayers not drawing it up to get him more situations where he's one-on-one? Do you feel like this year that's going to change and they're just going to say, hey, senior campaign, we only have this special talent for one more season? You think he'll get 100 targets or more?
I think you have to. If they want a chance to win the OCC, if he's seeing any less than, I'd say 10 to 12 targets a game, then there's something wrong.
Do they win the OCC this year?
No. I think Ashland.
Yeah.
That Bernhard kid is special.
Like my boy Anthony was saying, last year in the media poll that Jake Furr put together, I was the only person to say Ashland was going to win the OCC. I'm one of only 2 people on record to say that Lexington is going to win it this year. I think they do figure it out. They have to beat Ontario on Friday night. If they don't do that, I could actually see the exact opposite and things crumble and maybe it not quite go the season that they want. If they win week 1, I fully expect this team to skyrocket, have a fantastic season, and win that league.
What gives them an edge is week 10. I think they are home against Ashland this year. So
Yes, sir.
There's the title game.
All right. Any bold thoughts or predictions you want to throw out before we get you out of here?
I think between Crawford and Richland County, we have 3 teams in a regional championship.
Okay, I'm counting them in my head right now. Okay, we'll just have to find out who. All right. Zach Holden of Telegraph Forum and now Mansfield News Journal. Right here on the special edition of the phone board. Keep wanting to say Coach's Corner, but we're on the phone board. All right, we're going to take a timeout. Travis Berardi is actually going to replace me. I'm going to head upstairs and talk to Davey, but we've got plenty more action on the way. Stay tuned.
He's going to send a line drive down the field. It'll be fielded on the bounce. That is Schieffer. Schieffer finds a hole at the center. Schieffer turns on the burners. Schieffer could go. He's at the 50, 45. He's got one man to beat. Schieffer with the ball in his left hand. He's going to take it to the house. Whitford opens up the second half with a kick return touchdown.
Take a look at all the action from Friday Night Football right here in North Central Ohio with great analysis, highlights, coach interviews, and so much more every single Friday night right here on the OH Report.